why I've asked if you will talk is because you have just a wealth of information. I know you've just said to me you don't think so, but you most certainly do. Because when you emailed to say that you've been feeding your dogs for 8 years on a vegan diet, I just thought other people have to hear your journey, your experience, your positives, your negatives, because we all have to learn from each other. It's such a new, it's the feeding of how we need to feed our dogs for the future. So if we can learn from people like you who've experienced it with their own dogs, and I know you've had a dog with IBD, so that's why I particularly want just other people to hear your journey. So start at the beginning, because you've got 3 dogs, and let's start with your eldest then.
Eldest is Molly. She's a Shi-Tzu. She was originally sort of like first family dog that we had, belonging to my daughters. And the condition of having a dog was that it wouldn't be fed meat. We were all a vegetarian family then anyway, but I just didn't want it was quite hard to find like vegan dog food back then. We did sort of like research and sort of came up with, I think it was Benevo was what we had. So we sort of transferred Molly onto that. Like when we picked her up from as a puppy, like she came home with like a little blanket and some really revolting meaty dog food, and I'm just like, I couldn't even transition. I just had to like put her straight onto the vegan dog food. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I just couldn't face giving her meat. It's just so foreign. So we sort of went straight in. She's always been happy with it.
Good. And she took to it straight away then?
She did. She got more competitive with it when we got a second dog.
As they do,
which is quite funny. So we've got when Molly was 2, we got another dog, Isla. She's a Chihuahua. I think we gave her a smaller, like a puppy food, because she was so tiny. So there was sort of 2 different foods going on for a few months until she could go into the sort of bigger biscuits. I didn't consider making food myself, just because I thought it's hard enough feeding, like I had 3 children at home, like 5 of us at home, but I don't want to be cooking the dog food as well. So we just went for a complete food. It just seemed the easiest thing to do.
Good. And all the time, have they been healthy and well throughout?
Really healthy. We found that obviously, like we had a vet that we'd gone to with various pets that we'd had previously, like rabbits and guinea pigs and that. But then when we sort of turned up with like new puppy and it's like it's on vegan food, they were a little bit cautious, and but they saw that they were healthy, putting on weight. They weren't ill, and all of their checkups, they were really healthy. So the vet became happy with it, because I don't think they'd actually experienced any other any other dogs that had been on a vegan diet, so it's all new to them as well.
Absolutely. And then lovely that they were open-minded enough to just accept that that's what you were doing, but keep the checks. And I applaud you for what you did, because it is hard to step out of that realm and go against what a vet thinks is the right thing. It's only in the last 2 weeks that we now have published proof that dogs are actually healthier on a plant-based diet, which is the most wonderful thing. But it's something that you were doing without knowing that yet. And when I started my business, the same for me is proving through dogs like yours that actually, yes, you've done an 8-year study basically of of vegan feeding, and you've got an extremely healthy little Shih-Tzu now. She's going into her elder years, and she will live longer. Now we know with the studies that Night has done, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And then,
one thing, sorry, I say one thing that we do notice with them is, particularly the older dog, is she does behave like a puppy still. She's got so much energy. When she's out, people will think that she's like the puppy of our 3 dogs, but she's obviously not. She's just very active.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, that actually is part of the study, is that they are full of energy and have more energy than dogs on a meat-based diet, because none of the plant-based ingredients are inflammatory in any way. So their body can just use all these lovely natural ingredients for the natural functions, rather than having to fight any inflammation in any way. And then you got a 3rd dog, is that right?
Yes.
Join your little group, your little girly group.
Yeah. Well, the other 2 dogs were my daughters, and my eldest daughter lives at home with us still. And I'd really wanted a dog of my own. I know that sounds silly when you've got 2 others. So we've got Ruby. She's a Brussels Griffon. So they're all tiny dogs.
Yes.
She's a sweetie. She's she's really good.
Good. And she took to the food as well.
I didn't when we got her, I didn't say anything to the person that I was getting her from that we were going to be giving a vegan diet, because I knew she wouldn't. I think she fed her dogs raw, and I just that's what she was recommending, and I just sort of said, I wouldn't be doing that, but I didn't say what I would be doing.
Good, well done. Yes, a lot of breeders do tend to feed raw. It's sort of gone around the breeding line, so sadly. And which of your 3, now you've mentioned one of them has the IBD, the inflammatory bowel disease, which one?
That's Molly, the eldest one. She probably about 18 months ago, she was just not herself at all. And she was getting very, very distant with us, not sort of responding much. And she was actually getting a bit aggressive with the other dogs. And we sort of took her to the vets, because I was thinking it was something neurological, because she just wasn't herself at all. And like the aggression, like you couldn't, if she was sat next to you on the sofa, you couldn't touch her safely. You're used to sort of touching her, but she would start to like bite you.
Because that's so often a behavioral problem like that is due to pain. Dogs have no other way of showing it.
Which like I didn't know, but I wasn't sort of thinking that it was going to be like her stomach. So they did sort of various tests, and she ended up being referred to Highcroft referrals in Bristol, because they couldn't, our local vets couldn't do all the tests that they needed to do, like the camera,
the scope.
They couldn't do that. So we went up there, and they did sort of biopsies and lots of different tests and scans, and just sort of came back with that she had slight sort of ulceration in her tummy as well. It's too acidic. So they knew that she was plant-based, so they wanted her to go on to which is soya-based.
No, not really. It's hypoallergenic. Yes, it does. But it does still have animal proteins and animal fats in it, although it's primarily, they say, plant-based.
I think it had fish oil in it.
And
it
fish oil, yes, and sugar.
The thing is, we didn't, because she was so not herself, we just really didn't know what to do. So we just thought, well, we'll go with it. And probably for about 8 months she was on it. But within the time of sort of having the testing, she lost a lot of weight. She was only about 6.2 kilos, and she went down to 5.7 because she couldn't, even though she was hungry, when she ate, she was in pain. So you could only give her very, very small meals. It was just it was a really difficult time. And she's on steroids. She's still on steroids now. So like after having the food for about 8 months, and she had improved, and like her behavior had improved a lot. I was just a bit fed up, because I just thought, if this is it, because I went back to my local vet and they said, well, maybe it's just one of those things, she'll have to be on steroids for the rest of her life. And I just thought, if she does, she does, but I'm not happy with the food at all, because so I said about changing back to a different food, and I'd found your website, and I sort of showed it to the vets, and they were happy for me to sort of change her food. So we did that, and probably within 2 weeks of her being on the Solo Vegetal, she was a different dog. She was so much improved. I hadn't actually said anything to the rest of the family, but then one day I just said to my daughter, I said, have you noticed like Molly's? She said, yeah, she's different. And then my husband said, she's so much happier. So we've sort of, it's just improved a lot since having, you know, a different food again. So
perfect. And what it could have been, I know that they probably gave you no answers really with all the tests that she had, but dogs can develop an intolerance to one specific ingredient over the years. It's not something you're born with. You can develop it with time, and possibly because she was having the Benevo before, which is soya based, it could have been soya, which I think they do use in the Purina HA, but I think they hydrolyze the soya, so they make it slightly more digestible, which is why she developed the IBD possibly to the soya. But then the Purina, it was slightly more digestible, but it was still there. It was still causing issues, whereas the Solo Vegetal has actually been formulated for dogs with intolerances and skin conditions, so it contains none of the allergens, obviously soya free, and so everything then allows the gut to heal, and then you've got obviously ingredients in it. What a wonderful story, because the difference it makes to all of you is just fantastic. There's nothing worse than seeing your dog in pain. Oh,
I know, it's really sad, and you just feel like we've got our dog back. And we sort of decided, because she's improved so much like the last few months, we've decided to sort of try and reduce her steroids. So she's just going to have every other day she'll have one, and hopefully do that for a couple of months. And then try and the thing with her is we've had to do everything really, really slowly, because she's just been so sensitive. So just really hoping, that we can just do that. But she's literally, that's all she's not been able to have any other, like we used to sort of like put lentils on top of her biscuits and stuff like that. But since like having the IBD, it's literally, she can have her food and that is it, no extra treats. If she has treats, it's her biscuits. But, you know, it's so because she's a bit of a forager as well, so she'll go out in the back garden and start eating mud and stuff like that. So
and then it's so difficult for you, and they do, and then they find the odd cat poo and the odd
I know,
it's terrible what they can do to their own little cats. And does she like the food? I mean,
she loves it.
Good.
I mean, she does. She's one of those dogs that will eat. All three of our dogs are very good with what they eat. They'll eat sort of whatever they're given, happily. She really likes it.
That's wonderful. Good. And obviously the harmony is restored, because also when you have a behavioral change with you, other dogs also pick up on that behavioral change, because their little friend is responding differently, and sometimes. So now I imagine you've got lovely harmony amongst
it's
them.
It's really good. Very very pleased to have tried tried the food. I mean, to be fair, it's good that there's so much choice now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is very good. Yeah, I'm just very grateful for finding it.
Absolutely, because there, I'm thinking there's actually 5 brands that you could try with your 3 dogs, because we've got, well, the ones that I've got, obviously the Solo Vegetal, it's imported from Italy through a veterinary company that I get it from, but then I'm importing Greta, which is from Germany. That's soya free. And you get mini little biscuits, very palatable. There's Green Crunch as well from Germany, also soya free. And then you've got the other company, Hound, which is also very small biscuits, equally also soya free, and they do a dry and a tinned. And then you've got the tinned food, the pack, which is also soya free. So actually there are 5 different companies that and all fully balanced. And then you've got a company which makes the homemade food, which is Do Good, if you wanted it to arrive frozen and you just defrost it. Also completely balanced with all the right ingredients, very palatable. They're using quinoa a lot as one of their sources, buckwheat and sweet potato as their protein sources. And then there's the home cooking option, which as well you could definitely try with them eventually when you as your children dig in, you start to think of doing your dogs, but no, just as I say, I just applaud you with what you've done and how you've done it, because what you've done is you've constantly researched, which is what's so fantastic. You've always looked at the best options to give yourself. It turns you into a bit of a nutritionist, doesn't it? As soon as you turn your dog plant-based.
I think you end up sort of knowing more than
human nutrition.
And also sometimes when you hear a lot of like the negative towards sort of like vegan or plant-based diets, but when you actually know the facts yourself, you actually end up knowing sort of like more than either whether you're a doctor's, whether it's a doctor's or whether it's a vet's. Like the vets aren't trained in nutrition at all.
And particularly vegan. So right. And it's exactly the same with doctors as well.
Definitely.
Doctors also have hardly any courses in proper nutrition, sadly. There's just almost no time in both these big degrees. So it does fall on you to find the best route, which you've done. So well done.